I am Harsha Wijayawardhana. Today, through in my presentation, Journeying Through Time, Searching for the Zero, I will talk about the linguistic zero. So what is linguistic zero? So before that, let me also talk about what this series is about. A few weeks back, I started talking about Hindu Arabic numerals and zero. For our mathematics, zero is very important, without which I don't believe that we could have computers, compute, or even the computer science, even the abstract mathematics. The most important part of it is that without zero, we couldn't have done any of the things that we have been doing up to now. So zero, as I said, zero was discovered in parallel two civilizations. One was the Mayan civilization, and the other one was the Indian civilization. So for the last few weeks, we have been talking about zero through different perspectives. Today, I will be talking about the linguistic zero. My belief is, without the linguistic zero, the zero that we are talking about in mathematics would have not come. So in order to recap, I just wanted to show you a little bit about some of the ancient zeros in the world. So the zero came, as I said in the past, zero came about 600 CE, the ones that we know of today. The first one to observe recorded ones in Cambodia, what we call 683 in what we call a Khmer K127. So let us go to that and little recap. And so this is the first zero that what I have mentioned about, which is what we call the Khmer zero, so that you can see. Then within 10 years, you will see the second and the third. So this is another one. It came from the basically Sri Vijaya kingdom. And this was about a year later, what is today the modern Indonesia, in Java. This is the third one. It's a 608 in Shaka year. Within another 2 to 3 years later. Then we talked about Bakshali zero, which would have been one of the original ones in India. So this is the Bakshali zero that you see. This is written in Sharda, and then you can see the dot, that what you see. So there are two shapes that we have identified. One as a Gwalior zero, the other one is as a dot, what you have seen in Khmer. The last one, what you saw in Indonesia, was actually similar to Gwalior zero, the modern zero, with the oval shape zero. So this is the Gwalior zero, which you find in India in somewhere in 870 CE. So this is the oval shape zero, and there are two numbers that had been written with that zero. One is 270, the other one is 50. Then I talked about two numeral sets, Sri Lanka, which were found at 1815, which one was called a Sinhala ilakam, which didn't have a zero, and the other one is the astrological digits, which is called the Lith ilakam. So this is the Sinhala ilakam that you see without the zero, and this is what we found at 1815 when the Kandyan kingdom was basically was handed over to the British, and when we basically signed the when we signed the agreement with the British. So what you see is the Sinhala Ilaknam, and so the one that you saw here is that document in the bottom. So the royal court used the Kandyan kingdom used the Sinhala Ilaknam commonly for the royal edicts. So here is another one, which what we call the one that you saw at the very beginning. That's on my at the beginning of my presentation. That's the pocket watch used by one of our kings, and then in fact the same watch was used by the last king of Sri Lanka. So Sinhala Ilaknam, what we call it is a multiplicative and additive system. So what you are seeing there on the left is a Sinhala Ilaknam with large numbers. Then this astrological digits, which is obviously used by our astrologers, and that's why it's called astrological digits. However, it was also used for other things like the page numbering and so many other calculations. And you will see thousands and thousands of pages of Ola at the Kandyan Kingdom, at the Kandy Museum. So here is our, so we have found that this astrological digits and the zero, and it just like any other decimal systems that you will see with basically with 0 to 9, with the numbers 1 to 9 and a 0, and to write 10 like normal as what we do right now with 1 and 0. So these ones also that we basically, as I said, that would have been evolved from Brahmi. Both Sinhala Ilaknam in the astrological digits evolved from Brahmi numerals. So the Brahmi numerals that you find in you find in India, and we have also in Sri Lanka. So we talked about these Brahmi numerals in previous. The 0 here that you find with the Lit Ilakam or the astrological digits is the Halanta, which is called Hallakuna in Sinhala. So one of the things that we do with our Hallakuna or the Virama is to remove the inherent vowel sound in a consonant. So these are the Lit digits or the Lit Ilakam. The ones in the bottom are the what we call the basic to the Lit Ilakam. You can see 11 and 13, for instance, on Ola as a page how they use it for page numbering. So we, as I said, we talked about Lit digits or the Lit Ilakam, basically discovering at this Manikdana stupa, and which I have shown here. Now let me talk about today's topic, which is the linguistic 0. I believe that the 0 would have evolved, or 0 had come from two distinct, what I believe the two very important concepts. One is from the Buddhism, as Professor Nalin De Silva and I discussed long time ago. And because of, especially from the Mahayana Buddhist, because of a Shunyavadi, although it's about nirvana. So one of the concepts, the 0 would have basically evolved, and because of the concept of nirvana, which became part of the major Buddhist thought. The second one, I believe, it actually came from the of a language, the way we write our Sinhala. In fact, Sinhala script, like Sinhala script and any other South Asian scripts, or the Indian scripts, for instance, Devanagari, to the other scripts in Southeast Asia as well. So this linguistic zero, actually, as I mentioned, is about it's about zero being there in our script. Sinhala is a language with a very unique script, very cursive, very round shaped character, or the round shape cursive script. So what you see here is there are two very much that we use our halanta, halkirima, or virama. There is also something like the oval shape, zero, which we call anushwarya. Then there is a visarga. Visarga is used for words something like antapura, or basically, so the sound. And then like for instance, when we write Sinhala, which is modern day Sinhala, we use something like a zero right there after sing sound. So that is what we call anushwar. Okay, let us now look at, which I very much like to talk about. Sinhala scripts is unique when one considers how halanta is used in handling long, we call it a K. So this is a beautiful Sinhala script with a round, there is a curve, and a hal. Hal kirima is what I'm now actually showing to you. Halanta. What halanta does it is actually, or the hal kirima in Sinhala, it removes the or the k has an inherent vowel called k. Now, normally, when we write K, for instance, there is a sound which comes from this, what we call here, kombua. With a kombua and a K, it becomes K. So if I want to make it a long K, what I do is actually we will actually attach this little flag, or this is what we call halkiri or hallakuna, which is the zero in Sinhala. We had used it for astrological digits. In this, what will happen is k become k, and with this, when this one, with the A sound here, you will have a long K. The same thing we are doing with a ko. So the Panini, who lived in the 4th century BCE, in fact came up with the the grammar for the classical Sanskrit. Today, when we use Sanskrit, actually the grammar that we use actually from the Panini. Panini was an Indian grammarian, and he was the first linguist in the world. Sinhala and South Asian scripts, such as those of Myanmar, Khmer, and Thai, basically use his grammar rules to use in their scripts. Sinhala is very much uses the Panini's these rules, like Lopa, for instance. Lopa is described as a addition or deletion, and shunya, or void, or absence. So it has basically, once you remove it, it has the inherent vowel. And this virama is basically and comes under Lopa. It's what we call a linguistic zero. So what we have used here is very similar to, once we come up to 9, and then after which there is a 1, there is an absence, but also there is a presence on the left hand side. It's going from right to left. So you can see here the same thing, what we do when we write 10, 100, 1,000. It's exactly the same way that we are doing with the script. So the Sinhala script is basically like a mathematical notation to manipulate the sounds, or the sounds, that how we can we can tell you that we can basically indicate the notation with the sounds, how to utilize the sounds, whether it's come from your tongue or the middle of your tongue, or the how to roll your tongue, or how the sounds are made. Okay, now the interesting part. Removing the inherent vowel is analogous to Panini's low-part grammatical rule. Ka and ka. In this operation, halant or halant acts as a linguistic zero. Halanta came to Sinhala script between 3rd and the 8th centuries. During the same period, Kombu would have come into existence. When writing long K, the inherent vowel is removing to bring out more prominent the front vowel sound to make it long A. The operations on zero or absence with presence. Okay, so what I did was to figure it out how this particular sound is made, or how written down, or the basically given in other scripts. So that you have seen Sinhala short K and then the long K. Now there is so we are not using any, the front, there is no symbol or the vowel modifier denoting or the showing the long A sound, which other scripts have. So the Sinhala is the only script which similar operations only in Sinhala that you will see this operation. Look at the Myanmar. Myanmar, what they're doing is that sound is given basically here. Above base vowel marks the different shapes indicating vowel lengths. So there is a vowel length to show that. Thai, for instance, is a very interesting. Thai automatically have the long. Short K is the one which is long K is the automatic one. So you need to put a vowel modifier to make it K, for instance. So it's a long K is the basically the default one. In our case, it's the other way around. We have a short K without, there is a vowel modifier here, and the cur, and with the halant or the halkirima. So we make it a very similar zero operation in when we write in decimals. But the other way, in Thai, it's the other way. Then I looked at the camera. Camera has there is a modifier on top, so which gives you to differentiate between the two. Tamil, for instance, and Malayalam both, that they used a different vowel modifier. So this vowel modifier is a different from this is the normal combo that we have find like in Sinhala. But then there is a double combo, or the double, it's a very different from kind of a vowel modifier in right and front. But Sinhala is basically, Sinhala script is very much different when we use the linguistic zero. We are using the linguistic zero to make the long A sound. So Sinhala is the only script among the Indian scripts to use like this operation. Another thing what I did was just to do a little comparison between how we write, how we have this, basically the Virama comparisons. So you have a Sinhala, which with the halant sound, you can see the halanta. Devanagari has a little line like this comes in. So that's a Virama. This is the pure consonant what you are seeing. Tamil use a Pulya, which is also like a zero, which is on top. So that basically used to have the pure consonant. Malayalam also has this, something very similar to Sinhala. Then we have a Myanmar. Myanmar also has something very similar. So the partially removes. By the way, Myanmar does not have what we call a basically the virama that we have, it has a partial removes the inherent vowel. Thai, no virama uses here. So no virama is used. So the Sinhala and so many other scripts here, what you have shown, actually has virama. There are other linguistic the linguistic zeros that I have mentioned that would have somewhere in 2nd to 3rd century BCE it has started coming in. Anushwar is one of them. Visarge is another. So there are two linguistic zeros. Then there is another one called there are certain nasikas or the nasal sounds that we make. Those are also that we consider basically as a linguistic zeros. Okay, a little bit for me before I end this presentation, I like to show you something very interesting. So the Brahmi I talked about last week also about the Brahmi evolution in Sri Lanka. Just only 2 slides I want to show. So since that I talked about Brahmi for the last few weeks, the Brahmi has, as I told you, that there are basically not only 1 to 9, there is a sign for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 1,000 and 100 and 1,000. So I was actually talking about the multiplicative and additive system. Single ilakkam is a multiplicative and additive system which evolved from Brahmi. So in Sri Lanka, there is something very different transformation had happened in Sri Lanka. The Brahmi actually went through a transformation, become a multiplicative and additive system. So they basically used in India, the Brahmi actually used larger values, larger numbers, like the bigger numbers than 100 and 1,000, and 100 and 1,000. They have used the ligatures, the Indians. But in Sri Lanka, we have originally used ligatures. So therefore, they would have been treated as characters, or basically the characters in the sense that when we write the letters, so we would have used numbers as letters as well. So what you see here is also the same. But something interesting about it, about Sri Lankan Brahmi, that you don't see more than 1,000, more than 1,000. You don't see ligatures at all. Like for instance, in Situl Power, in 200, basically this is a Situl Power inscription within the 1st century CE. You will see they're writing 4,000 with just having 4 signs of thousands. And then there is this sign, what I call the Kharisa sign, which is very important. Anyway, look at this. Then eventually, what you have seen is Kharisa sign and a column head. This is 100, and this is basically a 7. Just to give 2 factors, column head multiplying with this number, that is 700. And in fact, written like that way also in our written script, saying it's a 7 times 100. So this is the same thing here. You can see there is a very interesting happening. You have a 3, then this is about 1st AD to 2nd AD. Our Brahmi is going through what we call a transformation in Sri Lanka, basically becoming multiplicative and additive system. So this is the Kharisa sign. Within that, this is the column head of 100, and this is 3, basically 300, and this is 6, and multiplication of this is 600 and plus 3, so becomes a 603. It's another one like that. This is 100, and they don't look like Indian 100 also. The shape of this is different from Indian. And this is a 7, and this is 4. So this is basically this is the column head, but you don't have a column head here. So that means It's just between 1 and 9 and maybe even 10. You can come here even to about 99. You can hear it will be presented in this column. This is what you are seeing is 20. This is 4 again, multiplying of this, 420. So what I did was, this is the Indian Brahmi. So the Indian Brahmi, of course, had gone through what we call ligatures. So let us look at how that Indian Brahmi evolved, basically. So it remained an additive system through many years to come. But it actually a very ingenious way of writing very large numbers. You can see here is a 3 basically symbols. These are ligatures. One is 400, there's a ligature. This one is basically you are giving a 4,000. This is a 20,000. Separated by spaces, you have 24,000 and basically 24,000. Now, 289 is written here as well. This is actually an NAND inscription in India, Maharashtra. And this one is also it's a long inscription. I have basically broken down and basically taken as a 2. So there's the same inscription. You can see 11,000 again. There is a one here is basically I've been showing large ones here. This is another 6,000. It's again a ligatures. So Sri Lankan Brahmi, as I told you, it started evolving step by step. So this is the Nangat. You can see the columns. I had just put it into the 10 to the powers like this. This is 10 to the power, 10 to the power, basically 10 to the power 2 and times 4. That's a 400. This is 10 to the power 4. That means 1,000 times 4, right? 1,000, 10 to the power 3 actually. In fact, this should be 10 to the power, this is a 10 to the power 20. And this is the way that we have in India that you have found. So these are the 3 different, so it's in the same place I have broken down into the powers. Then here, this is 10 to the power 6 and it is in the 10 to the power 0. That is up to 9. So so the 6,001. You can see that here, 10 to the power 6 and 10 to the power 0. This is actually indicated here. So that's in a 2 separates with the space. Here, 10 to the power 3, 10 to the power 2, basically with a 700. 7 is here. And this is a ligature. Now in Sri Lanka, though, these are Sri Lankan ones. It's very clear. There are 2 columns. There is a here, there's separators. Harsha signs. This is 700. I'm sorry. This is a 900. And this is a 4, 904. That's fine. So you can separate into 2 columns. So that, for instance, this is a Kahapana 4,000. You can see here the same thing. There's a Kahapana sign, and this is 1,000 sign, and 4. So what I did was just to show you what exactly happened. So these are what I did was I put a column 10 to the 0, 10 to the 1, 10 to the power 2, 10 to the power 3, 10 to the 4, 10 to the 5. So I put the Indian one, so you can see here. So this would have been replaced. This is basically the first 2 columns. There is no value, but then it has an absence and presence, absence and presence. And then I removed a column head and put a 4 here. So the ligature is basically the column had been taken out. The same thing here, you shift into the next one, shift in the next one. But this would have not happened in India like this. But in Sri Lanka, it's very obvious. If you know the 0 comes into play, what would have happened if you know that these 2 are absent, then you can have a 0. And these one disappear, but you have a 1 here with the basically 100 sign. And we know that 1 here. basically it's not shown, but we know it's a 1. And this again the same. This is 1100 depicted with the 0 would have easily evolved in the way that we have written in 0. So this would be the transformation that would have taken place to with the 0. So what would have happened? So the Indian Brahmi numerals would have gone to Nasic numerals, still using the ligatures, and then to Nagari and Devanagari evolved into Hindu numerals with the Gwalior 0 and the dots, the 0 that you find at the dot in the script, it would have evolved into a 0 that you have seen in Gwalior or the Bakshali 0 somewhere in 3rd or the 4th century. In what happened in Sri Lanka? Sri Lanka, it's very obvious. One set went to Sinhala Ilakam and must have been about 400 to 500 CE, and another set evolved into what we call Dittilakam today. Anyway, so thank you very much, and I will be again basically talk about the 0 again, and for the evolution of 0, and in another week in another presentation weeks to come. Thank you.